2018, I'm back and the budget PC is out of retirement. And what better way to kick off the year than with a game I've wanted to discuss for a while now, Sonic Generations. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, a 3D Sonic game, really? But with the disappointing release of Sonic Forces late last year, I found myself revisiting Generations to get my 3D Sonic fix. And it holds up a lot better than you might think despite its age. This is one beautiful game. In fact, in many ways, it looks better than the brand new Sonic Forces thanks to its bright, beautiful presentation. A presentation which is perfect for your brand new 4K television. Thus, in this episode, we're going to see how our budget PC fares running the game at a native 4K while taking a moment to explore what the game is doing. Beyond that, this is the perfect opportunity to look at another remarkable community effort, the Unleashed project. This modification for Generations brings all the levels and visuals from Sonic Unleashed to the PC, and it looks great. Ready to jump in? Let's get started. Sonic Generations released on the PC back in 2011, a few weeks after the console version. Unlike those 30 FPS efforts though, the PC version allows for a smooth 60 frames per second experience and higher resolutions. It's powered by the Hedgehog engine and offers visuals that still hold up beautifully even in 2018. The visual quality stems from a combination of great art direction, a rich post-processing pipeline including soft focus depth of field and good quality motion blur, detailed model work, and rich textures. The star of the show, however, remains its solution to global illumination, a feature created for the original Sonic Unleashed designed to simulate realistic light bounce across these expansive stages. The lighting data is pre-calculated, of course, stored in textures and then streamed in during gameplay, while characters are blended into the scene using a technique dubbed light field. For an engine which started development in 2005, it's pretty impressive to see. On the PC side then, there's not a lot of adjustments to be made here. Sonic Generations features a pre-launch graphics configuration screen, but the options within have little impact on performance. We tested two different GPU configurations for this episode, and in both cases, we simply cranked up the resolution to a native 4K while opting for FXAA here and high for each of these two settings. Vertical sync is of course a must in any platform game. Our test PC in this case remains the venerable Intel i5-3570K with 8GB of memory installed using an ASRock Z77 Professional, all running from a modular 600 watt power supply. And the GPUs? Well, for Team Red we've selected the mid-range RX 580, which is a fantastic GPU available at a reasonable price. On Nvidia's side then, we're sticking with the now rather ancient GTX 970, which can be had for a fairly low price if you look in the right places. We're looking first here at gameplay from the GTX 970, and as you can see, the results are rather striking. Despite the high resolution, the GTX 970 pushes through at a smooth 60 frames per second, delivering the speed and fluidity this game demands. At least most of the time. To ensure solid performance then, the GTX 970 is running with a 200 MHz core clock adjustment and a 500 MHz adjustment to the memory, but it still handles the game pretty well even at stock speeds. You see, regardless of settings, there are still occasional dips here and there. The alpha texture splash used here as you hit the ground, for instance, triggers a small dip likely due to memory bandwidth limitations. This isn't something you can fix by adjusting the options either, unfortunately. Sonic Generations also has occasional skips and stutters that can pop up in certain stages, even on much more powerful systems. The chemical plant zone is notorious for this, and unfortunately it's something I haven't been able to fully eliminate. Thankfully, these issues are relatively uncommon and do not spoil the overall gameplay experience. And really, once you start digging into this game, it kind of becomes clear rather quickly that Generations has a more appealing visual style than the recent Sonic Forces. The levels feature more variety, complex geometry, and interesting designs. That's not to say Sonic Forces can't look great, it certainly can, but overall, I really love the way Sonic Generations looks. What do you guys think? With the 970 turning in such smooth performance then, how about the RX 580? First impressions are as positive as you'd expect. The Radeon delivers a smooth 60 frames per second, at a native 4K resolution. Something you really would expect considering the stronger overall hardware, larger pool of VRAM available, and higher memory bandwidth. It's a great card for hitting 4K 60 on less demanding games like Sonic Generations. Areas where performance dips on the 970 can still show issues on the 580 of course, but a slight overclock can help improve things, resulting in a more stable overall experience. Both cards though offer an overwhelmingly stable 60 frames per second, which is key to this game. Ultimately, in terms of configuration work, Sonic Generations is one of the most basic games we've featured yet in our 4K on a budget series. You can crank it up without issue, and it just runs. The two options, which can be lowered, ultimately have little impact on the experience on this kind of hardware. It's fast and beautiful to behold. But there is something to know about this game. There is a bug in the way it handles the configuration files. Simply switching to another display or rebooting can be enough to trigger this error. The fix though is simple, but it remains a hassle nonetheless. If you run into the problem, simply pop into your installation folder, delete the configuration files, rerun the configuration program, and you should be good to go. So the game is looking great, you've played through it, and now you're looking for more. That's where the Unleashed project comes in. This project is the work of many talented people over the course of several years. Its current iteration includes all the main levels created for Unleashed, though a 2.0 release, which has now been cancelled unfortunately, was set to expand upon this in other ways, though you never know if it'll get picked up again. Even in its current form, the results though are still pretty amazing. Players can experience the main action stages from the Xbox 360 version of the game, stages which served as the basis for the modern Sonic levels in Sonic Generations. The reason this is a great feature is pretty simple. These are excellent levels which were previously trapped on the 360 or PlayStation 3. Unleashed is an ambitious game and the first Sonic game to be created using the Hedgehog engine. Considering it was first released in 2008 then, it's kind of amazing how well the art holds up. These stages are simply gorgeous. For the video right here, we're looking at the game running on an RX 580, but it does work well on the GTX 970 as well. What's especially interesting about this conversion is how the improved mechanics and features of Generations were adapted into these older stages. Things like the QTE sections from Unleashed were replaced with rainbow rings for instance, and those doing the conversion work had to keep all of this in mind and really work to mold these stages to work in the newer engine. Beyond that, you get the tighter controls of Generations and overall more polished gameplay. And while we're thinking of the original release, here's how Sonic Unleashed on Xbox 360 stacks up against the updated Generations version. As you can see, it still looks great on 360, but the improved frame rate and cleaner overall visuals definitely help propel it to the next level. Of course, being a fan conversion, there's definitely differences here, and many of those are necessary due to the changes made to the engine between Unleashed and Generations. There's some subtle lighting differences, some of the shaders look different, and depth of field is tied to resolution, so it appears much less intense on the Generations version. Still, for a fan effort, it's really incredible just how close these fans got. I really like the look of it. Now, I'm a big fan of Sonic Unleashed, but there's no denying that it has its fair share of issues, and this mod manages to focus in on the best parts of the game. This means there's no Werehog stages here, no overworld sections, and unfortunately no Eggman Land, which is the final stage of the game, but it makes use of multiple characters, so it wouldn't have worked well here. All in all, it's a really cool way to revisit these stages, and it just looks awesome at 4K 60. So how the heck do you get this up and running then? Well, the process is simple. First, find Unleashed project in your favorite search engine, extract everything to your Sonic Generations folder, and use Sonic GMI to configure your options, a very cool little program designed to let you load mods into the game. Just make sure you select the correct pack and the shader fix as well if you want the best visuals. You can even make a specific exe just for this. And once you have it all configured, it's as simple as starting it up and playing. It looks and runs like a dream, and there's even a new overworld map. Of course, do keep in mind that there are some minor glitches present, particularly when moving between levels. Lots of visible garbage can appear during these transition screens. Aside from that though, everything should work great, and if you're so inclined, you can find plenty of other ways to enhance your experience as well. Generations is a very moddable game, and one which can be enjoyed beyond what is included in the standard package. So okay, once you get everything up and running, what is it that makes this game worth checking out today? Sonic has a bad reputation in 3D, but I maintain that Sonic Generations is one of those times when the blue hedgehog really shines in the third dimension. The first thing to consider here is that Sonic Generations is part of the Boost Sonic design and does not hold close to the original 16-bit games. Things like momentum don't really apply, and level design more closely resembles a series of forked racing tracks than anything else, but once you get into it, the game is a lot of fun. Playing any Boost Sonic level can be an exhilarating experience once you learn the ropes. The game is all about reacting quickly to visual challenges to execute increasingly complex strings of platforming and movement. A good run through a level in Generations can give you that same feeling that you might experience while nailing a run in a classic Tony Hawk game. This also means that failure can feel more frustrating than a typical platform game, since the pacing can grind to a halt at any moment should you fail to execute. But when you do nail it, it does feel amazing. That potent mix of high-speed gameplay, which rewards reaction time and skill, paired with gorgeous visuals and a great soundtrack, is highly engaging to say the least. The takeaway here then is that Sonic Generations remains a beautiful, fun platformer that serves as a fantastic showpiece for high-resolution displays. It runs great on low-spec PCs and still plays well today. If you've never played the game, it's worth checking out, and if you've only experienced it on consoles, the PC version kind of feels like a full-on remaster, especially with the additional unleashed levels. That's all for now though. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and follow us over on Twitter. And until next time, this is John signing off.